Hello, hello, hello. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Thank you all for taking out some time of your busy days to join today's webinar. My name is Jason Caspert. I'm here in New York City, and I'm with the Corded team. As people trickle in, I'll give everyone about 2 or 3 minutes or so to get acclimated. You got to grab a cup of coffee, a bagel, anything you need to make yourself at home, and you'll be able to listen. This webinar will certainly be interactive, so I would encourage you at any point to please do share in the comments what it is that might be on your mind. Happy to answer all questions, and we can rock and roll soon. Where's everybody calling in from? I see Aaron and Anelli here in the chat. Love for everyone to chime in. Where is it that you're calling in from today? You got it, Aaron. Wow, South Africa, Boston, where else? New York City. Hopefully you're able to avoid the rain here coming up, Aaron. Let's see, Thea in South Africa. Where else? New Jersey, nice. Howdy, South Texas. People all over the place. Miami Beach. Boy, got almost the whole world covered here. This is great. We're going to give everyone another, call it 30 seconds or so to rock and roll here. What we're going to be covering is threefold. Number one, just a very high level as to why are we here today? What are we going to chat about? Number two, how you can leverage information, data, and intelligence to build out your team in an effective way. And then lastly, get a sense of how utilizing a system like this or any sort of system can increase your organization or your downline efforts. And you could do so in a very, very direct, intentional way. Let's see, Miami Beach, Boston, New York City, New Jersey, South Texas, South Africa. We've got a lot of people here. This is fantastic. Connecticut. Hello, Marcia. Well, cool. We're gonna get started. Just to kick it off, my name is Jason Caspert. I'm here in New York City. I'm the Director of Sales here at Corded. I'm very fortunate to know many of you there at EXP, and for those who I have not yet met, it's a pleasure to introduce myself. To kick it off, again, just loose agenda. We're going to walk through a couple of slides, just 3 or 4. After 3 or 4, I tend to want to see the action, so we're going to dive right into said action. On the platform itself, we're going to utilize all of the technology and data we have to understand how you can more effectively get a sense of how you can grow your team, as well as how you can effectively impact and significantly expand your organization or downline. I'll be looking up. I have a dual monitor here, so I promise I'm paying attention. I just like a bigger screen. It makes it easier to navigate. So without further ado, let's get rocking and rolling. We here at Corded work with about 2,000 brokerages throughout the country, hundreds and hundreds of teams, as well as many team leaders and individuals there at EXP. The reason we built out the system and the reason that we continue to iterate is we run into many common recruiting or attraction challenges as we go about our daily business. Oftentimes, it takes a long time to understand who it is that you might be speaking with or wanting to speak with. You then spend some time with individuals who may have just switched, or maybe they're a broker or a manager, right? And as a result, we find that many individuals then pivot their strategy from an effective one-to-one outreach strategy where you want to know everything about the individual into a low-touch, high-volume, generic outreach campaign, which results in, say, minimal conversion relative to what you're hoping to accomplish. And as a result, then people will be able to look into the MLS or other data sources they may have and hope that what it is that an agent did the year before is going to then process into what it is that they're doing this year. But I promise we've, developed a better way here. So how do we go about doing it? We are connected with just over 250 MLS, actually approaching 260 MLSs throughout the country. Every evening, 3 o'clock in the morning, we deconstruct transaction records. We then piece them back together to paint the picture of every agent, office, brokerage, and brand. In utilizing that information, we are able to then predict which agents are going to move, which are going to grow, and then provide some structural intelligence, also known as AI here in 2026, so you can know exactly what to say to each individual at this specific moment in time. We're going to be focusing here on number one, that finding the right agent at the right time, as well as number two, generating our right personalized messages at scale. But a big part of this here, it could be a refresher, a reminder for some of you, an introduction for many of you, is how you go about targeting agents. So we do a lot of analysis here, and what we found, which validates, I'm sure, which a lot of people might believe, is a couple of things. Number one, if you're able to develop hyper-specific segments as to who it is that you're reaching out to, you're going to have a more focused effort, as well as, absolutely, Jim, I'll get into it, how we would say better or different than market view broker. You're going to want to have some hyper-specific segments, whether it be individuals who, say, do between 1 million and 5 million. Why is that? Because they move more frequently than anyone else. Or individuals who might be frustrated or not as busy as they might be accustomed to, because maybe they're not working on anything today, or they haven't closed a deal in a long time. Or maybe it's going into individuals who might have a relationship with someone at EXP. They could have previously worked with an agent that is a part of the family, or they may have previously been a part of EXP. All in all, if you're able to utilize data and intelligence in a very immediate, impactful level of attention to detail, if you will, you'll be able to continually refine these segments. And I'm going to get into it right here, right now, as to how we can put this in motion. I see a question here from Nelly. We are US specific. We are not in South Africa yet. We'd love to be in South Africa because I would love to come visit you. But right now we are just here in the US. I'm going to go ahead and reshare my screen, and we are going to go ahead and dive into the system. Give it a second to marinate here. If I get a quick thumbs up or a yes, if you can all see my screen here. Yes, no, maybe. Beautiful. I see it live on my end. We're going to rock and roll. So the first step here is in getting a sense of what it is that you're looking at. So, just to run it, clockwise, if you will, on the top left, you could search for any agent, office, brokerage, or brand. On the top right here, you'll receive notifications, tasks of what you need to do. Most importantly, however, along the left-hand rail, this is where your main menu or navigation board may live. What many individuals do is they utilize our search function to first understand how they can build out their real estate team and dive directly into the agents or the agent search of individuals that would be relevant, profitable, and productive for everything and anything you're hoping to accomplish. Now, it's very simple. You can come in here on the top right and easily indicate what it is that ideal avatar might look like for you. So I see a couple of cities here in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and type in Indianapolis. We'll go into St. Augustine. I'm going to return back to the chat here. I see Miami Beach. Let's see here, and we'll dive into Boston as well. Okay, so from here you can then define what type of producer, where they operate, how long they've been in the business, all of the relevant details that you might need to recognize that this may or may not be an agent for you. Just to give you a flavor of it, across these 4 cities, there are, let's see here, over 20,000 agents who operate in these 4 places that we had put in. Now, the objective here is to then drill down on who might be the right fit for you all. What most individuals do is they'll first take a look at unit count. Christina, throw the questions on in here. I'm happy to answer them. I got 2 screens going so I can interact with you folks at the same time. So you could say, for example, I'd like to take a look at anyone who's done between 4 and 12 deals in the last 12 months. Of these individuals, who is it that's been in the business, say at least 2 years, long enough to know what's happening, maybe not long enough to know everything that they should to be successful. And we could say of these individuals, who's it been, say between 2 and we'll switch it out to about 7 years or so. We started with a list of 20,000. We now cut that list by about 90%. Here are 1,000 agents accounting for $4.5 billion in production who fit the mold in which we've described. Now, layer 2 to this is exclusions. A big piece of targeting is excluding the people who you do not want to speak with. So, for example, in order to do so, we can very easily cut out those folks who are already a part of the EXP community. Very importantly, you can also exclude anyone who's a broker or a manager. Not sure if you folks have called upon brokers or managers before, but those are individuals who certainly do not fit the profile of, say, productive agents who are going to move. And as well, if you'd like, you can cut out anyone who, say, likely leads a team. In this case, we're then peeling back the onion to say almost 1,000 agents. And from here, where the secret sauce, if you will, lies, is in identifying why it's the right time for the agent to be receiving some sort of personalized communication from you. It's always the right time for you. It's rarely the right time for the agent. So to do so, we can really easily identify when someone, say, is not as busy as they previously were, or they simply put, despite the success they've had, have hit a bit of a rut. To articulate that or visualize it, we could say, who is it that, for example, has sold through their inventory? They have nothing active or pending. If they were to make a move, they wouldn't be leaving any commission checks on the table. They're not dealing with 4 or 5 contractors today. Simply, they have the opportunity to listen to what it is that you have to say. Additionally, you could say of this group of productive agents, who is it that, in addition to, say, not being so productive today, has not closed a deal, say, in the last 90 days? So instead of attempting to spend time with any and all agents, here are the 51 agents accounting for $147 million in production who have a bit of a rut that they might be in. From here, you can then very quickly identify who is it that, in this particular example, might be looking at a very different Labor Day plan this year compared to last year because they are down significantly relative to where they were before. Our best people, Christina, are refining their segments. They're focusing on the right people, such as these 51 agents in a couple of the target markets that we had put in here. And then they're turning this from not just a system of data, but into a system of action. So for example, you can turn to an agent like Cipriano here, where you can very quickly get a sense of who this individual is. You'll see that they're down about 2/3 over the last 12 months. Over the course of their career, they've done almost $10 million. If we were to take a look at their history, it looks like they started at the tail end of COVID. They capped out here in 2025, where they were almost a $4 million producer. Right here, right now, they're not working on a thing. And despite the success that they may have had in the past, they haven't closed the deal since before Halloween. What I would refer to as an eternity for a productive agent, right? Here's their contact information. You can view more details as to who they are and where they close deals. But most importantly, it's about taking this data, turning it into intelligence, and then, of course, making it actionable. So that way, in one click, for example, you can receive a script that's solely intended, in this case, for someone like Cipriano, where it's well-researched without you having to put the time in. And quickly, you'll see that it's a message that's solely intended for this agent. No other agent would receive a message that would say, hey, I saw you've done over $1 million across Indy and in Pendleton over the last 12 months. I lead a team here at EXP. We cover marketing, agent success, and support. We're focused on relationships. If you're open to it, we'd love to compare notes and hear what kind of support would actually make your next year easier and more productive. To send this out, you can just click on their email. It'll open up your email, so that way the message is coming from you, not from a third party, not from a courted email. It's coming from you. They hear from you. They're able to respond back to you. Once you've done this, you can then make sure that you're tracking all of it. So in this case, you don't have to remember if you've spoken to anyone. You can go ahead and set a status to say, hey, I recall connecting with this individual. And moving forward, I'm going to be the one who's responsible for recruiting them. Now, there are other ways you can identify strong agents. One other one that I just want to quickly highlight is to turn to the co-brokes. So who is it that's closed the deal with an EXP agent in the not too distant past? If we were to dive into, for example, someone like Honey Tucker, you'd very quickly see, just as before, a $22 million producer who happened to have closed the deal with Jamie, who's a member of EXP there in Conroe not too long ago. And just like the message from before, you'll see in this case, it's intended for Honey. It's referencing the fact that they had closed the deal with Jamie, and it'll touch upon all of the great opportunities that you guys may have, as well as ask for some feedback on what it was like to work with someone like Jamie, knowing that they just had a positive experience with someone there at EXP. Now, the beauty of this is not just in the identification layer, but it's also in the follow-up. I am a big believer in any sort of sales process to remove the words following up and checking in from your vernacular, because that way the agent, or in this case, whomever it is you want to connect with, if you use the word follow-up or checking in, they know you're trying to sell them something. So instead, what we found has converted to very, very impactful conversations is to either provide extra support for those who might not be in your sphere of influence today, or be the first one to celebrate them for the accomplishments they may have been a part of. To do so, we make it simple. We'll take anyone who fits the ideal avatar that you've described to the system and to us and drop them into what you could think of as like a filing cabinet. In said filing cabinet, every single day, we will pull out the people who've had something significant occur in their career. So if you were looking to build out your downline, or in this case, build out your team, and do so in a way that feels complementary relative to salesy, you can very quickly see that, for example, Shannon here had the highest closed sale of their career. Same thing with Terry and Mindy. It appears as if Robin is back on the horse. It's her first activity in the last 90 days. Alan, there in Naples, had the highest listing of his career. And just like everywhere else in the system, we'll give you a way to very easily communicate with said agents. I see a question here from Christina. Can Corded integrate with Go High Level using Zapier, however you pronounce it, or another way, so prospects automatically enter your recruiting pipeline? Great question. Currently, we do have some folks who've called it Jimmy rigged it with a Zapier or something along those lines. But really what we found to be most valuable is to use Corded as the top of funnel. First level and second levels of communication. Once you've already had a meeting with someone and you want them to receive your marketing materials or anything related to your branding or some of the mass messaging that you send, that's when you could export a list inclusive of contact information and then push it directly into Go High Level or anything else that you might be utilizing on an automated or automatic capacity. Last thing to highlight here is we touched upon providing support for some of these individuals. You can very easily get a sense of not just when something significant has occurred, but also when a deal has gone sideways. I'd imagine most folks here either still in production or at one point were in production. It's never fun to see a transaction or a listing that was withdrawn or that was expired or canceled. That's money that could have been in their pocket. Absolutely, Christina. In this case, the idea of offering support for their broker or managers, even aware that, for example, Michael Morton here lost out on what could be a $40, $50, $60, even $80,000 paycheck, goes a very, very long way. We work with a number of folks at EXP. I can pull up a list of individuals in just a bit. I don't want to reference anyone that maybe they wouldn't want to. Great question there, Gigi. Lofty. Many folks export this type of information. You can see this here and drop it directly into Lofty. On our end, we have direct integrations and relationships with every MLS. As a result, that's why we've configured this for one-to-one outreach. The point is to be efficient and effective and not have any of the drop-off that can occur from a, say, drip campaign. But we also wouldn't want this type of platform to be utilized to spam agents. It would not be a good situation for anyone, and that's, as a result, why we provide these immediate scripts for one-to-one level communication. Christina, as well as I believe there was someone else earlier in the call here, Aaron, who wanted to speak with me directly. I'm just going to drop my email in here, and I'd be happy to send over these types of details as well. I'll just drop my email in the chat. Now, pivoting the conversation a bit to take a look at your opportunities for expansion on the downline or the organization front. You can go down the same route in identifying agents, but what we find is that the most successful of folks at EXP, they actually target either independent or smaller offices. So that way, in one fell swoop, you can pick up 3, 5, 30, or even 70 agents I've seen before, all just by identifying who it is that can benefit from having the operational backbone that EXP provides. Now, let me visualize this for you. So, for example, we can go in and, just as we had done before, easily determine who it is that we might be looking for. In this case, we're going to want to avoid some of the larger names in the space, right? So we will cut out some of the big boxes. Let's see. I think we get the point here. Now, from here, we can dive into a location if we'd like, but oftentimes it's about identifying what that office looks like. So we could say, who is it that has, say, between 3 and 30 agents and between, call it 10 and 70 million in production over the last 12 months. This will give you an honest understanding in any market as to what it is that people are up to. Now, from here, you could say, well, of this group of what could be independent brokerages, and yes, of course, I can cut out the Engel and Volkers of the world or the D.R. Hortons or Berkshire Hathaways, but of this group, is there anyone who's having a very different year this year than what they had previously? I see a number of groups here that are of an independent capacity that are down 98% or 95%, 88%, 83%, 81%, right? So this is one way you can identify these opportunities. I'll dive into how you can then operationalize this here in a second. The other route is to then take a look at who is it from a group of agents at these offices might have had a bit of a changing of the guard, right? Meaning, who is it that may have lost a ton of agents relative to the agents that they currently have brought in? That type of broker might be hurting a bit. And let's maybe take a look at one of them. So, for example, this particular group here, they've been around since 2000. It looks like Andrea here has been managing the office since then. They're down 23% over the last 12 months. Their agents are not only productive, but they're loyal. They have 18 agents that are licensed, but only about a third of them are actually producing. You get a sense of how fruitful this endeavor has been for this particular company. You can also get an honest understanding of what they've been up to of late, as well as if they are a shop that's worthwhile of your time. In this case, might not be, say, the best pick for you. So let's, for example, move on to the next. We can dive into any and all types of groups. Let's maybe take a look at this office here. So in this instance, you'll quickly see that this looks like it's a single individual. If they had more agents here who are productive, one might argue that there's a rainmaker in this office who's making all of these great opportunities happen for Kenneth James Realty. Now, in this case, you can get a sense of what's happened. It's pretty fascinating. Over the last 12 months, they've recruited 2 agents, accounting for almost $3 million in production. But there's a bit of a leaky bucket or a large hole in the bucket where they've lost 21 agents, accounting for $80 million in production. You could see those individuals have dispersed to a number of different places. And for someone here, like Carl, who's been operating this office now for almost 13 years, I see this as an opportunity where they still want to remain in production, but they could be sick and tired of all of the administrative work that it takes to run a brokerage. So as a result, I can see this as a prime target to at least have a conversation as to where the value of EXP can then accelerate not only the production that Carl has, but also take some of the, say, time-consuming paperwork off of his or her plate. Christina, I see a question here about building an EXP organization from scratch. What would your weekly quarterly workflow look like from identifying prospects to converting them into agents? Great question. So we've been focusing on the identification layer quite frequently here. As you start utilizing this system, I think of it like an operating system, where as you are engaging and interacting with individuals, building out those lists, utilizing the scripts, following up with them with those events that we had talked about, all of this over the course of, say, a week or so, will then start to populate a dashboard. So you can see right when you log in, we have a number of suggested activities, which will then lead to easier conversations, which we then find lead to conversion of those agents and those offices over to your universe. So let's pretend I'm 2 weeks in. I'd very quickly see that I've made a lot of progress. Why do I say that? Well, right there in the middle, you see I've contacted 445 agents. I've scheduled meetings with 90 of them. I have 5 contracts that are going out or have been sent out, accounting for $44 million in production. These new individuals are all people that if you want to start and continue to build out that pipeline, these are individuals we'd suggest you reach out to. And of all of the people that sit in your pipeline right here, you can dive into them, or very simply, you can see who is it that's a part of said list that have had something significant happen. It's all about leaning into activities that the agents have been a part of late, capitalizing on whether the fact that you're able to celebrate them or provide support to them, and then having genuine conversations as to why it is that EXP would accelerate what it is that they're doing in their professional life, which would then hopefully put a bigger smile on their face in a personal sense. It's a great question, Christina. You are ahead of the game here. You're leading me into the final chapter of our conversation. So in regards to training, support, implementation, we have an entire team that is sitting about 15 feet away from me here in New York that is here to help you. How do we do so? Number one, one-to-one onboardings. Everybody has a different avatar, a different style of work, a different way in which they like to communicate with agents. We want to make sure that we are supporting and accelerating those endeavors. So as a result, you will have a one-to-one account manager, if you will, who not only would just be working with you, but also works with dozens and dozens of others within the EXP universe. Secondly, you're not able to see this here on my screen just because I'm on a demo account. But we have a chat function within the system that the first line of defense is a little AI that's well trained, but it actually pings every device of every person here at the company, inclusive of our founders. Across our three founders, they actually, across the three of them, they have a number of children. They actually have 4 kids across the 3 founders who are under 3 years old. Why do I bring that up? They're up at all hours of the night. They are always chatting with customers. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. They're here to ensure that things are going as swimmingly as possible. And then lastly, we offer trainings and webinars on a monthly basis, such as this. And we do so even on a weekly basis if you want to dive into individual features, functions, or ways in which that this could apply to your daily life. Long-winded way of saying, Christina, and everyone else, you're not just purchasing something and you say, good luck, here are the keys. That's not how we operate around here. What other questions come to mind? This kind of concludes the presentation aspect of the system here. I tend to be direct. I want to hopefully touch upon the things that are valuable to you all, but I'd love to answer any questions that might be on your brain here for the last, call it 2 or 3 minutes or so. And don't all jump at once. Nothing? Sounds like it's a sound of alignment, no questions. We'll take it. Give everyone another minute or two to gather their thoughts. I know people have chimed in from all over the country, if not all over the world, so I appreciate you taking out some of the time. So great question, Gigi. We source our own data. We source our own data. We are directly integrated with 260 MLS throughout the country. We are not pulling this from anywhere else. This is all created and operated by us here. Jim, that's a great question. Great question. You have any production reports that you can send to a prospect showing that you've done your research? Absolutely. So if I were to dive into someone like Shannon here, I will export this profile. I'm going to stop sharing this screen for a second so I can share what this export can then look like. Some people love this to print out as well as highlight, but others utilize this in a recruiting conversation, such as what you just described there, Jim. So let me see here. Beautiful. So I'll zoom in just a bit, but you can see all of this data in one PDF or production style report that speaks to who this individual is. I see a question here about targeting productive agents who specialize in luxury, new construction, or otherwise. You would be able to do that. Absolutely. Let me show you that here. So we've gone from the perspective of defining certain parameters. And in defining said parameters, that will give you, say, the truth that you see in front of you as to who these people are. Now, additionally, you can pull via market share. So if we were to take a look at agents, let's just say in the Beaches MLS, in a specific location, you could take a look by property type or sub-property type, all as denoted is in the MLS, or by price point. So we could say, who is it that's operating in a luxury price point and representing sellers? In doing so, they're in Beaches. And here are the individuals who are dominating said market. They own the largest portion of said market share, in this case, in the Beaches MLS at the $3 million price point or higher on the sell side. Little trick to the trade. You can very easily get a sense of who to speak to and why you should speak to them based off of how much of the market share they are gaining over the course of the last 12 months. So if you look maybe further down the list, who is it that might be exploding in the luxury market? It could be someone like Casey, who's up 800% on a luxury sell side opportunities there in the Beaches MLS. Christina, yes, you can also identify agents in your own organization who might be disengaged. By just typing in their name on the top left and adding them to a folder, you can start tracking those individuals very simply. I'd be happy to show you with an individual agent or a subset of agents. It's absolutely something that we have folks doing on a daily basis here as well. I see a question about agents in the area who work in multiple MLSs, be able to pull their production from both at the same time. The answer is yes. You can pull from multiple MLSs, but you wouldn't be able to consolidate the information into one production report. So if someone, for example, Jim, is in the Indiana Regional MLS, and they also happen to operate, say, in the Southern Indiana, I think it's Syra, if I'm not mistaken, MLS, you'd be able to see the production of that individual in both MLSs. You'd have to just take a look and kind of add them together on your own. But from the reports that you're seeing, the MLSs, they would not want anyone to kind of mix the data together and present it in that function. So as a result, there's some guardrails around what we're able to provide. But we have many folks who utilize us in numerous MLSs, from extremely large brokerages like Windermere down to individual agents who are, say, within EXP or other brokerages that you might come across. Different MLSs operate in very different capacities. I'm from Northern New Jersey. Where I grew up, I can probably, it depends on my golf game, but I can hit a golf ball to like 3 different MLSs. And as a result, it's interesting. Some operate very differently, and the reports look a little bit different. You know how to work them. It's very, very simple. Christina, we could talk about the MLSs that you are in. In terms of going international, frankly, we actually see opportunity here in the U.S., even if it's 2 different states, no big deal. We do not have a plan to go international today. There are a lot of opportunities here in the U.S. to continue to serve the people that we do serve, as well as enhance the product, the functionality, and the ways in which we're able to engage with the fine folks in real estate that we do today. So frankly, there are no plans today to, say, expand beyond 50 states. Cost of the program is very simple, Gigi. We partner with those folks that we do work with on a 12-month basis or longer. It's a function of 2 things: how many MLSs you need access to, and how many usernames you'd like as well. Simple matrix, and that's how we determine the price. Good news is, as a part of EXP, you guys receive north of a 50% discount on subscription to the system here. And adding 1 tier 1 agent or 1 agent to your team more than covers the cost of what this type of program would look like. Be very happy to dive into what that looks like. Let's see. Great question, Christina. Which states does your data indicate are the best areas for us to use your attraction tool and to attract the highest probability or percentage of joining? So that's a really great question. On a state-by-state basis, there are very different neighborhoods, even in counties or even in different cities, right? So what we instead do is we focus heavily on the migration efforts of different MLSs. So if I were to, let's pick a large MLS, say, actually, let's go into MyBoard, because our friend Jim is in Indianapolis. You'd be able to determine, and we can show you and kind of steer you in the right direction as to how many agents are actually moving within said MLS or said area, at what production levels, where are they moving to, and where are they leaving from, right? So the best way you could interpret this is, for example, in the Indianapolis area, $42 million of production has left this particular brokerage and has joined yours. you could interpret this in other ways as well. Christina, I might be misunderstanding your question there. You are able to pull if an agent is licensed in multiple MLSs. If I was to type someone's name in, you'd be able to see the different MLSs or areas that they are producing in. Jim, it's a good report, right? It's pretty fascinating. It's oftentimes very directional as to where it is people like to focus their efforts, especially given all of, call it the shakeup that's always happening here in our industry. It does show their brokerages. So for example, let's go into an individual and you could see where it is that they've moved from and where they've moved to, and in different MLSs as well. So in this case, you could see Jada here is part of the IRMLS as well as in MIBOR, and it'll show you in a table view as to like what it is that they have. Great. Valuable info. Finally, not kidding. Happy that this has been valuable. Again, I'm going to drop my email here in the chat. My team is comprised of 6 very knowledgeable individuals who work specifically within different areas of the country, all of which have clients as well as prospects, frankly, that are within the EXP world. When I receive an email from you, what I will be doing is I will be connecting you with the appropriate individual over here who specializes, for example, in Connecticut or in Indianapolis or in Miami Beach or in New York City. Stop by the office or in Flatiron. I'll get you a cup of coffee and a bagel. There's a couple of good spots over here. Christina, another great question. Happy to send you some more information on pricing. Discount is all due to the fact that you are a part of EXP. Nelly, there's very kind words. More kind words. I have to come visit you in South Africa. We do one-on-one webinars. We do ongoing trainings. We do larger webinars such as this. Point is to be a support system for you. Most of the time, people tell us to back off after a couple of weeks. That's because they totally get it. But Christina, happy to help you as much as you might need or provide as much insight as you might like. With all that being said, I don't know if we're over time here, but I do not want to take you guys away from your busy days. Only a couple days left here in the month. Let's close it out strong, make a ton of money, have a fun time, and enjoy what it is that you're doing. Thank you all for your time. Again, I've dropped my email here in the chat. I'm going to do it one more time. If there is anything that you might need, inclusive of great eating spots here in New York, let me know. Otherwise, so great to see you all. Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again.